We better go, we probably got time.
Ready?
Yes, we're ready now.
I'd like to call the board meeting to order. Would you all please rise and recite with me the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this morning. Augie, would you be so kind as to call the roll?
Patrick.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnham.
Here.
Chittick.
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Voigt.
Here. Okay, quorum is present. Claims against the county is the next item. You gentlemen and lady have had this. Do you have any questions or need any clarification on the claims against the county? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Phil moves.
Second.
Dan seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They do carry. Next, county board member claims. Any questions? Hearing none, I would like a motion to approve.
So moved.
Dan moves, Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, next we come to public comment. There is a podium up there for whoever wishes to speak. We have a 5-minute rule, and we're going to adhere to that. So I ask that you provide your name, if you would please, and stay within 5 minutes. So the podium is open for public comment, please.
I'll break the ice.
I figured you would, being shy and all.
I don't remember, Carl, how long ago was it our first wind ordinance that you worked on?
He didn't. None of us
Right
have.
before our time.
That was just before our time.
Years ago.
It has been a long time,
It has, I thought you helped on that.
No.
He and I came on the same time.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Memory starts strong now.
Be 10 years.
COVID. Well, in regards to how long ago that was a bad ordinance. I think everybody knows that. It was bad when we said it back then, and everybody said, you don't know what you're talking about. Now we all agree it was bad. I'm encouraging this board to amend this ordinance to put in a multiplier based on rotor diameters and put in height limitations. There's been a focus of landowner rights. Your focus needs to be public safety, number one, and property values. That's the most important part of zoning, and that's what this wind ordinance is zoning. I will boldly say you've been lied to when you hear, oh, if we do a multiplier, then it's gonna block them out of the county and they can't be here. Because Wind Farm told you that. That's not true, and the reason it's not true, you're shaking your head no.
That's not what I've heard.
I've been told that by people
Okay, well, go ahead.
that have said, if you put a multiplier in, they're not gonna be able to be here if you go anything bigger than what you have. It's gonna force them to where there's just not enough space. Well, the truth is, there's not enough space for the monstrosities that they're wanting to build. There are smaller towers. That's why height limitation comes into play. There are other options. And to be told, well, if we do that, they're not gonna come, well, you know what? Then so be it. If they can't negotiate smaller units I don't know about you all, but right now in Kansas, I see Christmas lights every night in Newman. Every night. Think about that. And until you've lived it, you don't know what it's like. And that's just the minor side of it. But the truth of the matter is, public safety is number one. And in that process, a multiplier needs to be put in there. Someone needs to amend this. In this meeting, you can do that. Amend this to put a multiplier. My recommendation is 10 times diameter. Now, folks that don't understand a lot of this business, I can tell you, I have researched this for years, and I know in Iroquois County, when they went to a 12, do you know why they went to a 12? Because their prior ordinance allowed monstrosities to be built on top of everybody. And they're like, no more, this is out of control. That was a far, some would say, extreme ordinance. A 10 multiplier is not an extreme ordinance. Landowners can negotiate with the wind farms. They don't have to build 600-foot towers or 500-foot towers. They have some, back in the first ordinance, man, 300 was unheard of. That was just massive. We're well beyond that. Well beyond it. And we're pushing the 600, 700, 800 foot is, I mean, they're wanting to continue to go bigger and bigger. If you don't put a height ordinance or a height limitation in this, what's to stop them from putting in, you know, a giant? I want you to think long and hard about it. And those that haven't personally researched it, I beg of you, stop believing what you're being told until you've researched it yourself. Because all too often, I hear comments that are, well, that's what I was told. That's what I was told. And I know I'm telling you stuff, but I'm begging you to prove us wrong. Prove this information wrong. We went down the wrong path 12 years ago, whenever it was, and nobody wanted to listen. And here we are again. And I'm telling you, there's things in this that, and I agree, we need to fix it. We need to amend. We need something better than what we have. I get that. But there's some things you need to amend right here today. You need to put in height restrictions. You need to put in a multiplier based on diameter, not tip heights. I'm begging you. I don't do that very often. Anybody have any questions for me? I know it's public comment, but I would love to field any questions. No questions, Jeff?
Nope,
Nothing?
nope,
Would you be willing to share what attorneys you've spoke with on this matter?
nope,
Why not?
because they've asked not to, because they don't
Okay.
want to be involved at this.
And I get that, and here's why I asked that question. It was a loaded question. You know that.
That's okay. I'm gullible.
I asked that question because when people aren't willing to go on the record, that's an indicator. It's an indicator that they don't want to be involved. 5 minutes?
5 minutes,
I've
sir.
got a question.
Yes, sir.
How tall are the ones in Newman? Roughly.
I thought that was 600.
600.
Yes.
Tower height, that doesn't count tip height.
Right, and I understand they're the biggest ones in
Yes.
the nation, maybe?
Tip height is 600.
Tip height 600, tower height.
Those are 600 tip height.
Okay,
Yes.
600
Thank you.
tip height.
That's the blade, the top of the blade goes straight up, right?
Right. Right.
That's-
Okay, thank you, Kurt.
That's the biggest around?
I believe so, but I'm not positive on them. They continue to grow.
Hi, Brad.
So, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Brad Halbrook, Shelbyville. I was asked to kind of come and talk about kind of some of the legislation that we've seen in Springfield concerning wind farms. I'm neither for or against. My issue is that the ordinances are rock solid for a couple reasons, that it protects property owners that both have windmills and that, or I call them windmills, that both have windmills and that don't. The ordinance is really important, and I think one of the things, and I'm not an expert in this area, but the things that really concern me is about decommissioning. I was to an event in mid-August in Vermilion County, and that wind farm is north of Fithian, south of Potomac. I'm not sure if there's the number of units there, 125, 150, but there's 6 or 8 or 9 that's disabled, and I don't think there's any plans. I don't know what the plans are, other than they say they're not being repaired, and I don't know if there is any plans. So what is the decommissioning? And I think as we work with this issue in Shelby County and the neighboring counties, Christian County, I think you have to have rock solid issues when it comes to the decommissioning. You know, letters of credit or whatever. I think you have to have cash in the bank or bonding that's indexed and whatever. You've just got to have it rock solid. The estimates that I had once heard that to remove these units are like $500,000, $700,000. Okay, That's a substantial amount. It's like, okay, so what's the plan in Vermillion County on those units that are down? Enough about that. So what happened a year and a half ago, many of you probably were aware, HB 2988 had to deal with, it was a hurried up, done piece of legislation. Newman and Murdoch Townships in Douglas County was facing a situation with a wind company wanting to come in. And the situation was that in the township code, it was the belief of those two townships that in the absence of county-wide zoning, they could initiate zoning. Okay, they got a positive circuit court decision to that fact. The wind company appealed it, and in that appeals process, there was legislation drafted and filed, and every loose lobbyist that could be hired was hired. They worked the halls, barnstormed through both chambers, tons and tons of co-sponsors, which the bulk of them were from the city, that you can't put wind generating units in those areas, and it was railroaded through in just a matter of a few weeks. In the House, legislation passed like 100 to 13 or something like that, and it was like 40 something to 7 in the Senate, and was just signed into law immediately. But what's unique about 2988 was here you had a piece of legislation hurried up, drafted, run through, and signed while the matter was being litigated. That never has happened in the history of the state of Illinois, where, and there have been, and I can't quote it, but there has been things that are being litigated, and there's been kind of proposals to fix some of those legislatively, but it's never moved, right? Because they just say, hey, let the courts sort this stuff out and be done with it. And what's the dangerous territory, the dangerous precedent in my mind about that matter was it stripped decades-old township code about in the absence of county-wide zoning, the townships can zone themselves, okay? I think that sets a dangerous precedent so that when you get into the county's code and municipal code about 1.5 mile setbacks, what's to keep those guys from coming in, getting a tremendous amount of suburban legislators, city legislators to just strip out the county's code, to strip out the municipal code, and to put those units within that mile, and just strip that out. That's my concern. So I understand private property rights, and everybody has the right to use their property, but the downstream effect, and I'm sure you'll have experts later this morning that will testify about that. I don't, in my limited viewpoint, I'm not sure that we really fully understand what the downstream effects of some of these things are. It's going to make me start to sound like I'm an opponent. I just want to make sure we're protecting people and property owners, and not taking away their potential property values and the potential to grow them out, to develop the property down the road, whatever they feel like they want to do. So just in closing, just make sure you got a rock solid ordinance when it comes to some of these things, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Percentage of the people in that areas where the wind farms may come in, what's the percentage of the people that would be for and against? Any idea?
No, I don't have, but and the point that I should have made about that is that the way this is kind of done is it pits absentee landowners that have tenants against landowners that are in the area, okay, that are either, they're landowners that are farming the ground, or maybe they're landowners that aren't farming the ground. It pits that group of people against absentee landowners with their tenants, and it just, you know, the tactics that are used, it just pits neighbor against neighbor, and maybe family members against family members on this, because the money is substantial, and I guess I understand private property rights, but, you know, as legislators and as you folks, you know, in these governing bodies, have a right to try, or it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we protect everybody, you know, so that there aren't winners and losers, and try to make it as much as a win-win. I don't have an answer for you as far as percentages or whatever, but that's what we see as kind of we're pitting those two groups of people, and that's just bizarre that it has to be that way.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, guys.
Next.
My name is Cindy Erke, and I'm from Ford County, Illinois, so I'm about 2 hours north of you guys. I was asked to come here to kind of speak on our experience. I'm on the county board there, and I also am on the zoning committee in our county. We have 2 operating wind farms in our county, and we have one that is in kind of developmental stage. All of those were permitted prior to us. Right now, we have a moratorium on any new projects, and we are reworking our ordinance. And we would probably have that ordinance in place, however, the COVID-19 thing, we shut down all meetings and it's been put off, so. We were kind of in the same situation as you guys with the kind of weak ordinance that was handed out, came out of Chicago, was handed out to all the counties, everybody adopted the same thing. So since our first project went on in our county in 2011, we've had complaints from multiple citizens. Both projects have had problems, okay? Ranging from nuisance noise, shadow flicker, TV service interruption. We've had questionable turbine placement. So in the most recent project that went up, the setback for the town was 1,500 feet, and they ended up with a turbine at a little under 1,450 next to the town. Now, once these things are up, it's too late. So that town is stuck with a turbine set too close to their town. And of course, this was all done without our county representatives knowing what was going on, so until it was too late. Our highway engineer in Ford County is a wealth of information. He's gone through 3 road use agreements now, and one of the projects had major road problems. Took 3 years, lawyers and all kinds of headaches to access the money that was supposed to be ours to access, to get the company to comply with fixing things. Now the project has been fixed and things are good, but it took 3 years and a lot of headaches. And what happened was the road grade was off, and this was a road that was traveled by school buses. So there was a huge drop off on a road where children were being carried to school. So it was a big deal, and to have 3 years of waiting to get that fixed was pretty frustrating for us. So I've attended a lot of meetings with wind company representatives, and we have been told straight out by the wind company representatives that you have your salespeople that come in, which maybe they're here now and may be talking to you, those people. They tell you things, they make you promises. If it is not in writing, it is very likely it will not get carried over to the next stage. The next stage is the construction company. The construction company is looking at the site plan, the maps and everything, which I brought one for you. If anybody wants to look at, you're welcome. I'd be happy to share it with you. That site plan is created off of your ordinance. So if you don't have clear, concise rules in this document, then you're gonna end up with problems later on down the road. And I say that because we've ended up with problems. And our ordinance is now going to be probably about 20 pages long. I also brought a copy of this if anybody's interested to see the changes that we're doing. A few things that I noticed, first of all, no other types of zoning have setbacks that are measured from property line, or from homes. Everything else in zoning is always measured from property lines, okay? So for whatever reason, wind companies have tried to convince us that it's okay to measure these things from homes. It's not. Somebody's property is their property. What we've done in Ford County is we're kind of coming at this as this document is protecting non-participating landowners, because when landowners sign a contract, there's a clause in every contract I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a few of them, but there's a clause in there that they agree to waive all the restrictions in your ordinance. They waive setbacks, they waive noise requirements, they waive shadow flicker. They agree to it when they sign a contract. The object is, when these people come in for a county, to have your ordinance set so that it encourages the wind company to get people to sign up with them and agree to waive the restrictions. But if a property owner doesn't want to waive restrictions, they have the choice of being protected. Property value, shadow flicker, all that. State statute requires that nuisance noise does not cross property lines. Because of the nature of these machines, you guys have all seen them up there. Those are structures as tall as the St. Louis Arch. There's no way that noise does not cross property lines. So by putting a noise restriction in, you guys are going to be protecting non-participating owners, property owners from nuisance noise. If somebody has a complaint after these things go up, at the state level, is that 5 minutes? Okay,
You're
can I
done.
wrap it up?
I mean, it's 5, yes, please.
Okay. So at state level, the Department of Environmental Protection, there's nobody in that office. You have to hire a lawyer to make your complaint and a acoustician in order to prove your problem. So it becomes very costly. So my recommendation, you guys, table your decision today. I would be happy to go over this paperwork with you, answer any questions, show you a plan, and help you in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, John Kraft. At your study session, I asked if the school districts have been approached by wind companies yet. And I asked that for a reason, because of what we found in, I believe it was Mount Pulaski, their school district. I was wondering why the superintendent and school board members would follow the wind companies around and tell everybody that this is the best thing since sliced bread. Well, I found out. They signed a contract. They had an agreement with the wind companies mandating that when the wind company says, hey, Bob, we need you to go to this meeting and speak in favor of the wind turbines, they have to go and speak in favor. They're prohibited from speaking against it for the entire term of the contract, which is 1 or 2 generations. What is it, 20, 30, 40-year contracts? And if new board members come on and speak against the wind turbines, the contract says they have to pay the wind farm back all the money they were ever given. Now, when I wrote about that, they quickly backed out of that deal. So I guess I want to caution you for when Chrisman School Board, and I'm not saying they've even been talked to or that they would agree to anything like this, but when you see school board members, municipal board members, mayors, fire district, new ambulance district in northern Illinois, those people coming to you and telling you how good these wind farms are, ask them why they're speaking, and then submit some FOIA requests for any contracts or agreements with the wind turbine industry. And I think you'll be surprised. It was completely ridiculous. So, thanks.
Thank you, John.
Good morning. Is it okay if I stand here so I
Yes,
can
sir.
hit my buttons? Gentlemen and Lisa, my name's Ted Harkey. I live in Vermilion County on Illinois Route 49. And I was excited and very much in favor of the wind farm when it came to my neighborhood. And this is a picture of my house. And these are is a wind turbine. I want to show this to you. You guys want a 1,640 foot setback from a house. This one is 1,665 feet away. So this is 500 foot tall. And I want to tell you that we thought these were going to be okay because they're not supposed to make noise like we were told. It was going to be great for our school. I was all in favor of this thing, even throughout the whole construction of the project. I was still supportive of it. But then they turned them on, and my wife and I and my kids and my dog, even the dog, who can't read the internet and hear all the baloney, we all had troubles with sleeping. And this is a view from my front yard. This turbine is 2,225 feet away. Okay, 500 foot tall. These are 1.6 megawatts. The star on the drawing is where my house sits, and these are the 4 nearest wind turbines. Okay, now remember, these are supposed to be quiet. So, at the beginning of the project, in they first turned them on, we immediately had trouble sleeping, and the wind company, which was Invenergy, they shut these wind turbines off 51 nights between January and between January and Mother's Day. On April 15th was the first time we went public with any of our noise issues that we weren't sleeping. So within about a month after us complaining, they no longer agreed to let us sleep in our house any longer. You guys have a noise ordinance in your thing that says Illinois Pollution Control Board standards. That's about 45 dBA, 46 dBA at your house. Okay? This chart shows us that the widespread complaints will start at 33.5 dBA, and adverse health effects begin at 40. That's because of sleep issues type related items. So, in the wind farm application from Invenergy, in their application from 2009, they wrote in there, these acusticians wrote, that the noise level for the majority of the locations was going to be sufficiently low to eliminate or potential for sleep interference, which was at 40 dBA. Okay? So they know sleep issues begin at 40. They wrote it in their noise ordinance or their project application on the noise section. So I'm going to flip ahead here to this guy named Dr. Schomer. I've sent in these slides to you guys previously. And he's one of the gentlemen that did the noise study at my house after while we were having troubles and complaining. And Schomer's recommendation was here that at the nighttime level and the 24-hour level, since turbines run all the time, they need to be less than 39 dBA. And in his summary, in Boone County, Illinois, where they have, you guys have that listed as one of the prohibitive counties, Dr. Schomer went to Boone County after he measured noise at my house, and he told them that they needed design for 34 dB because in some circumstances it will go up to 39 dB and cause problems. And in that chart that he makes, that if you want to correspond 34 dBA as a design noise level, you have to be at a half mile. And this presentation is included in my packet that I've given to you guys back in February. And this half mile is why Boone County, Illinois has it. They felt and they found that this is something that they are lawsuit proof against the wind company saying you guys just put in arbitrary too tough of standards. Boone County can say no. We found an acustician that measured it at an abandoned home, and at the abandoned home, he's working for the wind company. He came up with this final solution as a proposed setback from people. In Livingston County, another so-called prohibitive county, they have a 3,250 foot setback. The reason why is because the same company, Invenergy, wanted to build a project, 500 foot tall turbines. They put in the application. During the hearings, Dr. Schomer, who worked for Invenergy, said at these noise levels for these machines, he measured exactly where they were going to be and where all the houses were. And he had a chart, and each chart looked like this, had like just a big dot diagram. It showed at different setbacks how many people are still going to have issues, according to him. And he got to this slide, and he had 220 houses in the area. And at 3,250 feet, he still had 2 houses which were unprotected. I'm already at 5 minutes? Okay. I'd be glad to tell you more.
I'd like to hear what it's.
That's fine, I just want to be fair to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So, with the 3,250 foot setback, this is why Livingston County went with it. And Livingston County, they chose it and they use this as their backstop to avoid lawsuits. Okay? So, I'm gonna summarize this. I have lots to tell you, but I don't wanna upset your chairman.
No,
Using up too
we
much
can
time.
have you back.
Okay, so for today, I feel like your group needs to put in a safe holder today. So a wind company doesn't come in tomorrow and drop an application on your table, and you're stuck with a 1,640 foot setback, where my turbine was 1,665, and I have a house that we had major issues with, as an example. So today, don't put in there 1,640. If you want a nice placeholder, and be lawsuit proof from a wind company saying you're too restrictive, or a landowner coming in saying you can't make me restricted on what I can do with my own land, this is a good number which has been tested by Livingston County. I recommend you in today's approval, put the 3,250 in there from homes, and then take your time reworking all your details, because decommissioning is a big mess, it's very difficult. Some of these things is like nailing jello to a tree. The noise issue is very hard to prove. It costs a lot of money to take care of it. And for this noise issue, I think you trust the acoustician that worked for the wind company, that measured it at my house, that came up with this setback for Livingston County, and also did Boone County a couple years before that. He's already converted this noise distance ratio. Distances are easy to measure, but noise is very difficult to capture and get that moment of time when it's actually over the limit in the middle of the night. Okay, thank you for your time. I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Ted.
I have one question for you. You're talking about a setback. Is there a study about a proportion or a relationship between the height of the tower and the setback that you need?
All the setbacks that we've seen so far, for the height of the tower that's noise related, the ones that I have is for a 500 foot tall wind turbine. Those are the ones that are around my house that were measured. That was the same turbine size they tried to use in Boone County when they had Dr. Schomer go up there. And that was the same size that Livingston County had when Dr. Schomer went to Pontiac, Illinois to discuss this matter. I feel as though a noise level for a 500 foot turbine is going to be similar to a 600 foot one. For a noise level you can hear, but the low frequency portion of it, where it's the blade wobble, where it sends an air pressure pulse, when the turbine catches wind up high, it will flex back, and when it comes out of the wind and it gets more lower to the ground, it flexes again, and each time a blade will flex back and forth, it puts out like an air pressure pulse, which inside my house sounds like a heavy subwoofer bass type of thumping noise, or people closing car doors or things like that, that wakes you up and disturbs you and you just can't relax enough to fall asleep. That you're not going to go to a wind farm and say, oh my God, I have to hold my ears because it's so noisy. It's not like that. It's just a gnawing, long-term, it's the duration of the noise. And it comes and it goes and it fluctuates. You can't get used to it. It's too variable. So, this is for a 500 foot turbine, to answer that. Yes, sir.
The person that owned the land where the structures were, was he a close friend of yours, a neighbor?
Okay.
I mean, otherwise
The
he's no longer a
closest-
friend, right? That's why I'm
We still
asking.
get along with our neighbors. They were told the same thing that we were. When they
Okay.
signed their contract, these things are not noisy, they're not gonna bother your neighbor. They signed it.
Okay.
If I was the same person in 2009, 2010, when they were approaching people, I would have signed up.
I see.
Absolutely. So I don't fault them for signing it. When the problem came up, I've had a few people say to me, hey, we have a turbine, we made a mistake, I'm sorry that this really happened to you. I'm glad it's not mine that caused your direct problem, but I know I have one and I hope my neighbor doesn't have the same effect. And also, I realized it doesn't affect everyone. This is like a 15 to 20% of the people that it really affects. So if you're an affected person, I want to relate this to a person with allergies. Two guys walk across hayfield, and one guy, he just about needs his inhaler, needs to go to the hospital. And the other guy, he's fine, and he tells the first guy, you're a gosh dang liar, because obviously I'm fine, you should be too. I mean, that's the kind of negativity or ridicule that gets kind of kicked our way when lots of people live next to turbines and they're fine, but you're not. You know, something's wrong with you, no. It's just how we were made and can't help it. So, I'd be glad to answer any other questions you may have, but
3250, why 3250
Okay.
and not review? Maybe you said it and I missed it.
okay.
Why not 2600 or
Okay.
350?
Dr. Schomer, I think he had his increments in 250-foot increments. So he did 2,500, 2,750, 3,000, 3,250, and his slides were a rolling slide, one after the next. And he kept the closer distances. He still had 20 houses out of 220 were still going to be disturbed. And he rolled down, and when he got to 2, people were like, hey, 2 is, we feel like that's a risk that we can take. It's only 2 houses out of 220. It's about 1%. And if that's a problem, that's going to be an extreme circumstance. And that's just what Livingston County Board chose. I didn't choose 3250. It's just the increments that they thought they could live with for how many people would be affected, noise-wise, for those particular size turbines with that particular layout. It was very specific.
I'm just asking because I wanted to know if we should amend for a temporary period. It seems rather high.
It is. I have a lot of other reasons you could use in the 3,000 foot range. You don't want to hear those? I got like 5 things.
We're gonna create a committee of the whole to
Okay.
start hearing information right away. We don't expect anything to be in here for a couple of years. So,
Christian County just went to 3250 with theirs.
well, that's fine. And you told us that the other day, I believe. But we, rather than just, what I was trying to find out, it's almost an arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary.
Well,
I mean, it was very specific. The acoustician measured the noise and said, this is how many houses are affected.
Well,
What
but-
can you live with?
okay, but see, I don't know what the housing units density is out there, but there's not much. And so 3250 in some of the areas may not even hit any homes, or 2650, or
When you
2500.
say out there, we're talking Edgar County.
Right. But we've got time, there's not even another company looking around the area. I'm just saying it would be better, if we wanted to, I don't know what's the board's pleasure?
My concern is, at this point, what we've got is not sufficient.
Right. We all
And I
agree
would
on
like to
that.
have something in place, revisable,
Right.
but I don't wanna, given the fact that someone may look and go, oh, that's where you wanna go, they haven't got anything in place there.
Right. I mean,
That's my only
we're wide
concern. I'm
open.
not exactly sure how to answer that, but
So how does, because we're talking about the potential turbines over on the west side of the county. If there are turbines going up in Vermillion, Illinois and Vermillion, Indiana, does an ordinance in Edgar, Illinois affect how close those can be to Edgar, Illinois?
Not that I'm
I
aware of.
have no idea.
Not that I'm aware of.
So what you're saying is if your house is in Edgar County, but there's a turbine in Vermillion County that's
Does our
1,600
ordinance
feet
protect
from your
us?
house,
I don't think so.
That's not what we've been told. I mean, somebody may have some more information. Yes, ma'am.
Very quickly, to your question, the next county over, whatever their setbacks are, that's what they can do up to the county line. So if you have somebody with a house on the county line and they come across the county, that person could potentially have problems from the other county. That's what we dealt with the road issue, that road cross county lines, so our county had to work with 2 other counties to remedy the situation. So you may end up coming into that situation if that occurs, but, you know, I haven't heard of anything like that happening. But the other thing I really wanted to say was, what we did in Ford County, we instilled a moratorium. Now, you can't have a moratorium forever, you have to be working on your ordinance and be moving forward, but it does give you time.
We have a
to-
moratorium right
You
now.
do, okay. You can extend that moratorium if you're still working on it. You're not under pressure to pass this today if you feel like it needs more work. That's just what I wanted to throw out there for you.
If you have a moratorium, that's good. I thought this was a dang emergency.
But we were told that we can't have one forever.
Okay,
And what we wanted to do was getting something that was, and we've tried, we're not pros either, we're relying on other people. We've consulted with the Farm Bureau, our engineer, although he is not an expert, he is an engineer and has worked with us and provided us a lot of information. So what we want to do is basically improve the ordinance, realizing that it's a work in progress. Give it we sat around for 10 years and didn't even pay any attention to the darn thing. So about 7 months ago, we started working on this thing. The board was aware of it. We knew that we had an inadequate ordinance. So what we'd like to do now is set up a committee of the whole where we can start working and have special meetings on the deal and start having people coming in and explaining it so we can all together understand it better, and then have an ordinance that does offer much better protection, which we think it does, and go from there. I think explains it. Is that how you understand it?
Yeah,
Jeff, the moratorium, when did we adopt it and how long does that last? And does that stop an application currently?
Yes, it does stop. We put that into effect in May, April or May.
But it stops a current application?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wasn't aware we're under a moratorium.
Not a more, we suspended taking applications.
That's different than a moratorium.
Okay, we suspended applications, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can,
had a moratorium, I wasn't gonna bring it
yeah,
up.
if you don't have a
sorry.
moratorium, then you definitely gotta do something.
Something, that's my concern.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't know all the terminology. Yes, John?
And if you gotta do something, it would be easier to reduce the
Go back.
setback later than it would be to increase it later.
You could vote today, put a moratorium on until you get your work done. That's fine, as long as you're working on it. You just can't put a moratorium on and let it sit. You gotta work on it.
Which is our intent anyway.
they,
Or-
it's not on their agenda.
Oh, we'd have to do it at next meeting.
Okay,
You could table this and then do it at next meeting.
Well,
if we table it, they might slip in with it.
Well, there's nothing for
Application.
approval of this on the agenda.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is.
There is?
Yep.
Go big and amend it backwards to.
10.
To the
Oh, yeah,
letter.
yeah.
That would be the, yeah.
Yeah, you-
All right, well,
It's your best
it's easier to
option today.
reduce it later than it would be to increase it later.
Yep.
I don't see the difference.
Jeff.
Well, if you have a low number, it's set back now, and then you get an application, you basically can't increase it later after you get the application.
Motion to temporarily suspend was approved on April 8th.
Suspend, okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look up the language on moratorium, but it's a specific,
For citing,
yeah, so they can
approval
still,
for citing.
but they could still put in an application. For a moratorium, they can't
Well.
put in an application.
You asked me for other numbers. I had this old slide too. It has other numbers, and you have like a blade throw, ice throw distance. That could be a distance to the property line. And then for the noise level, have that distance to their houses. If you want to do a two-tiered thing, I know Cindy thought everything should be a property line, but I realized that there are a lot of vacant farm ground that's not going to have a house built on it. And if you just make it safe for someone to physically stand on their own land without threat of a blade throw. That's pushing 1,900 feet or so. And for that noise, use 3250 as your placeholder. I think you can have enough defense against that. If someone wants to say it's too restrictive, you can say, well, this is what we use, come up and show me a different number, and see if they'll come back with one.
So you set it at 3250. And you have two landowners that agree that they don't necessarily want it at 3250, and they agree on it, then that's okay, correct?
Mhm.
It's not, while it protects someone who doesn't want it, it doesn't prohibit someone
Correct.
that does want it in a correct location.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That makes perfect
I
sense.
actually know what you're saying, Andy.
Okay, well, that's good.
For one
I,
system.
Is that
at this
a
point in time,
Is that a motion?
Hang on, 1 second, 1 second. Just that, don't forget that, like I would. In
Okay.
10 minutes, I won't remember. Are there any other, public comments before, we can just skip down to 10, or whatever number it is, 10, and then talk about, yes, sir.
Can I say a few things?
Sure.
My name's Will Cooley, I'm from Brockton.
I will.
And I just want to offer a few things. The setback, I think the property lines and the houses ought to be about the same. It affects it, and the decommissioning costs, will there be a fund set up and the money set aside at the onset of the program? And should that figure be revisited every few years, see how much it would cost?
Well, definitely, that decommissioning should be looked at continuously because of issues that may pop up across the state.
And I believe we have that. Yes, there is money set aside.
Is there an account?
It's
Not
a-
just, can they put money in an account somewhere?
This is part of the siting, correct? And application.
Can you, yeah,
Yeah,
Aaron,
please.
can you briefly, you
What?
talked about it the other day.
Yeah, I don't have it with me.
That's okay, just
No.
thinking about it.
We-
I'd rather not.
You rather not?
I'd rather not.
I thought that it was designed so that we would look at what the landowner and the company were doing. And not be,
Our suggestion, it's the county board's pleasure, our suggestion is that, that the only type of financial assurance that the county should be comfortable with is cash. That's the highway department's suggestion. It's
right.
straight
I couldn't remember, that's why I was asking you.
But the developers and others have pressed the county hard to come up with letters of credits, escrow accounts, assurances. And my understanding is that the county board is not interested at all in a hybrid, but that the landowners could, in fact, exercise those type of options with the developer. Does that
That's
sound fair?
correct, yes.
Okay.
One of the things that, well, I'm sorry, Will, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things that in 16 or 25, whatever year it is, we have to also look out for health and safety, but we have to look out for where the taxpayers wind up being at the end of the time. The time to deal with that is when the landowner reaches an agreement with the wind farm company. Not in 20 years when the taxpayers somehow wind up carrying the freight to guarantee the health and safety. Does that make sense?
What happens if they sell the wind farm sells their interest or sells the windmill? Does the county have any say-so, or can they approve or disapprove of anything because of the financial condition of the
Now,
buyer?
they have to meet the conditions of their lease and or agreement with the landowner, which would be registered. So
Okay.
if you had operating something on your property, the next door, what was successor landowner or company which is already filed, would have to adhere to all the agreements. You know, just kinda like if you're renting
The
to a
county
farm.
can't say anything about, so what happens if just one of them, one holds out or two holds out, it's not a majority or anything like that?
You
They
mean
go
up
ahead and
to-
sell the company?
I don't understand the question.
Financial assurance with the deed.
Pardon?
The financial assurance, is that what you're saying, is
Well, that,
recorded
no,
with
it's
the deed?
different. What happens if, the wind farm sells?
Well, that deed has a lease to the wind farm
Yes.
that can sell
As they can.
as they wish.
They probably can. It happens frequently.
They can.
And, then the wind farm is leasing the ground from the landowner. But they insist on any mortgage that's on that ground be subordinated to them. And I don't understand that.
Then
Is that correct?
That is correct.
we highly suggest to everyone, in fact, Farm Bureau had a meeting, and that you get legal representation to make sure you're protected throughout the process, whether you're intending to sell or not. Or lease, lease. And it would be better,
Well, that
I think, Wyatt,
infringes on their rights, the landowner's rights, because they'd have to find, if they want to put a mortgage on it, they'd have to find a mortgage company that would be willing to subordinate to them after they signed it. That may be hard to do. Then that gets into the freedom of speech. Somebody brought up about the freedom of speech. They,
oh, yes. Kirk did.
they make you
John.
sign a piece of paper saying that you won't criticize the wind farm. And then
A muzzle, yeah.
you can't, they have even gone, they're at Newman, and they paid people to vote for approving it at a local meeting, you know.
Don't know.
And they made them sign a piece of paper,
So
saying they
that-
wouldn't ever criticize.
That, not a school system,
No,
just.
a township meeting, a town meeting.
So something similar to what you were saying already.
That's all I have.
Yeah, and if you don't believe those documents exist, the muzzle and gag orders, and I can produce copies of them.
Okay, thank you, Will.
There's one question with her. You have any trouble with getting the roads repaired after wind farms are done? We've talked nothing about repairing the roads.
She did.
We do have a
Yeah,
sort of a
somebody
road
did.
use agreement,
Took her 3 years.
but I'm asking,
Yes, with the first company, there was a few minor problems, they were solved quickly. The second company, it took 3 years. Our township had to put in the money, their money, to buy the rock to keep shoring up the side of the road for 3 years. And then they even disputed reimbursing the township for that rock. So your highway engineer, our highway engineer, Greg Perkinson, has had a lot of experience and he's really sharp. So if you wanna contact him, have your highway engineer contact him, he can really help out. And he will, he's a great guy.
thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? I don't want to miss anybody before we,
These companies fairly stable, or are they kind of fly-by-night groups?
I think fly-by-night's a fair.
Well, therefore, you look at bankruptcy situations, now where do you go?
yes, Kurt.
One thing I want to mention back to what the gentleman referenced as far as being paid. We're in the early stages, so I don't think you're seeing the salespeople in here. But we had uncovered up north where Department of Energy grant money was used to buy shills to sit in meetings, and if you spoke negatively, they had 2 paid people that were being there to counter whatever you said. We're not at that stage yet, I don't think, but we have seen that happen in the smart meter industry, and we have seen it happen in the wind energy side of it, and it's exactly what this gentleman spoke to. It will come here. I don't think it's here yet, but it will come. So when you say, look at all the people that support it, you have to be very, your due diligence is important then, because there's so many people that have been brought into the table to do that. Hey, you wanna pay me to speak? I'm a hired activist.
I've got those emails directly from the Department of Energy in case you want to look at it.
That's
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
That's it.
In answer to your question, the parent companies have been around for a long time. When they build these, they put them under limited liability companies. So, and everything is under the limited liability company. We just had a small town that was negotiating with the most recent one that hasn't been built yet. And they asked to put the parent company on the agreement, and the wind company would not do it. They said it had to be under the LLC. So, one thing to keep in mind here is that these companies, this is an industry, their goal is to build at the least cost and get the most out of it. So your job here is to protect your citizens and make sure that things are done correctly on this end. Because theirs is spend the less money, make the most, and that's what they're out to do. So keep that in mind when you move forward.
Okay, we're gonna move on from public comment to item 10. So, gentlemen and Lisa, what do you think, where do you think we ought to head? I'd hate to see it tabled at this point, but a modification, a temporary modification might be something we wanna do, but I leave it up to you to discuss.
You don't mind?
No.
Our original plan Monday was to go ahead and tighten our ordinance up and get a committee going to keep this as an ongoing thing, because the technology is a moving target. And if we want to amend our amendment to 3,250 feet, I would be in favor of it.
To the house.
To the house.
From the wind generator or wind tower to the house, 3,250.
I think for this stage, yes, and I understand the point about property line versus house, and I think we need, I like the idea of them being more in line, but I don't think at this point it's necessary, and that sounds like something better to discuss as we go forward, trying to tighten this up. Does that make sense?
Other comments on what John said?
At this point, we don't have a moratorium, correct?
Right.
Correct.
We have our old ordinance.
Yes.
I think something's better than nothing at this point.
Okay.
Since you don't have anybody beating your door down right at this point, at least you've got something to start with. And I think we need to really work on getting a group of people together that want to. It doesn't affect me, so but there are a lot of people that it does affect. So I think if you put a setback at 3,250
for the time being.
For the time being.
From the house.
Or
from one of the primary structures. It would be primary structures, okay? Because you don't want one 1650 from a school either, okay? Or a church, or wherever it happens.
Or a restaurant in Andy's case.
Yeah, or a restaurant, or grapevines.
Well, it's not something that needs to be passed right now. I mean, it's not an emergency thing.
Well,
It kinda is.
And the way it is,
I
the
thought
way it
that
is.
was an emergency.
The way it is.
I thought, we don't have a moratorium.
We
Bill?
don't, but should.
We don't have a company coming in right now to,
we have a company that's visiting
yeah,
people
but-
right now.
okay.
Then this moratorium seems like it's essential to do that quickly, isn't it?
Well, we're talking about two different things.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, we're talking about the ordinance and amending the ordinance and doing a change to 3,250 on the distance to a house or primary structure.
We can't do a moratorium today because it's not on the agenda.
And the changes we've made, I'm reasonably comfortable with for protection of the people. Is it perfect? No, but for a stopgap, I think I would rather have that in place than have to wait 2 weeks to get a moratorium on.
Carl?
I make a motion that we pass this ordinance or ordinance and adjust the
The amendment,
setback,
as amended, the ordinance as amended.
correct, and from the primary structure, change it from 1650 to 3250.
Yes. Okay. Do we have a second? Andy seconds. Further discussion?
So a moratorium is off the table, or we do this time and then a moratorium, vote on a moratorium
Well, it would
later?
be, I don't know whether the votes are there for a moratorium. Okay?
Well, I'm just asking, is this two separate?
There's
Yes,
two
it is.
separate things.
Today, yes.
Okay. Would you call the roll, Augie?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnham,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
And would you add me to?
Voigt.
Yes.
As far as the moratorium, what do we need to have the state's attorney? I mean, I don't know what.
If that's what we want to do, yes.
Well,
But we can't do that today, though.
No.
That's December.
but
Yep.
maybe we could get the state's attorney to get some paperwork so we can take a look at it,
Right.
see what all's involved.
That's fine. We can do that, and Augie and I'll work on that when Augie gets caught up. Okay?
And are we gonna have another study session before our next board meeting?
Yes.
In November?
Yes. I don't know whether it can get done by then, but
Right.
we'll try.
Yeah.
I would like to thank everybody that made comments and is here to help us. Okay? We appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me talk and interrupt the process here and go longer than I.
Can I hand this out just real quick? I forgot to do it before I spoke.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ben?
May I hand this out to the board members?
Oh, absolutely, please do. And give one to our engineer too.
Okay, so it's double-sided, my contact information's on the back, okay?
Thank you, Rep.
Thank you, I appreciate you coming.
No problem, no problem.
Give us a minute.
Yeah, we're just gonna take a couple of minute recess. If anybody needs to use the facilities, please do. And, hey, take care, Wyatt. Thank you for your help.
Productive.
No, Monday was productive. Quite frankly, I don't want to see one across from my house, even if the noise didn't bother me.
I don't think so.
I like the prairie.
Yeah, they do have to, they do have to
I'm
add,
sorry.
but I don't think they have any trouble as far as like making.
Across the street? On the south side of the courthouse.
Yeah, that way.
With the current.
And some of that was going on.
It was focusing on
Yeah.
It wasn't enough just.
I don't believe what it is.
They don't make mistakes now.
Yeah, so that's why your road use.
Well, like we did. That, I don't get
The ones in the east.
Well, we're-
No matter what the road agreement is.
Haven't heard
Well, I
that.
mean, I'm happy to answer questions. I have board members in Ford County that are happy to help too. Our engineer is great, so we're happy to help you guys. Are you the engineer? My contact's on the back there at the bottom, two sides. So if you need to get hold of me, do you know Greg Ferguson? Yeah.
Is this, can I have a copy of that?
Yeah, this is my last one.
I'll get
But-
one.
Aaron talked to me that late.
Did you give one to Voigt?
I did.
Right, I know that there was a
better-
conversation,
You or him?
but I'm not sure.
You're
No,
okay.
if that's your last one, I
We
thought you
didn't
were gonna take it
receive
home with
anything
you.
that-
No.
You're gonna hand it
No, I
out.
received-
Yeah, yeah.
I'll take it.
Other
He'll lose it.
I'll check and make sure.
Can you give him a copy?
Yes, ma'am.
He's talked
I'll
to a lot
do
of
that.
counties.
Thank
I
you.
don't know
Yeah, no
whether he did or not, but I'll make
The,
sure he did whatever it was.
My contact information's on the back, it's two-sided.
Got her.
Okay?
Thank you.
I had made 7 copies, and so I just gave my last.
He'll give me a one.
Give you a copy.
No, yeah, that'll work perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to help us.
No problem, you know, what my story is, it's such an important issue. That's why I bought that book, to show everybody, like, all the information you get.
Oh, I've got
It's overwhelming.
Yes, it is.
And you have to have the knowledge and you have to have the people in order to keep everything straight, so. And I know we're a small county.
Yeah.
We have 12
I'm
board members,
very-
you guys have less board members.
Yeah, I love, it's really nice having 7 as opposed to counties like, man, it's like
I think the reason is we have it now.
But the challenge is $1,000.
Yeah.
And I get $135. I get 10 extra bucks. I'm pulling her down, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, and feel free to contact us, okay?
Or, you know, mom has this one, dad has this one.
We not looking into, we have some protection. That
40 properties.
insurance company sells to somebody else, the county, we can't because they have the legal lease contract that will stand in court.
This decommission is really very.
Yeah, it did. I'm not talking to you. There's a lot to do. Did you go to Michigan or Wisconsin?
Well, I appreciate it.
You're still helping still.
I will, and you know, the wind farm, I would love to keep going with that.
I wish you felt that way.
I tried. I did pretty good. I did pretty good.
Yeah, see, yeah, so you guys are a resource.
And I'm, you know what? I'm close enough on the prairie that, wind farms could get to me eventually.
Well, I'm guessing you'll be able to see them.
I can, now that the leaves have fallen off the trees, I can see the ones that Newman's throwing at.
We could set up an amplifier out there about 45 boom, 450 feet from us.
I'm already notorious for just leaving my radio loud in the barn lot while I'm working. And
Your sheep will going to be
Just shy of a year.
I think they still guaranteed somebody.
Same place you live.
Especially if they can't see green energy.
No, not at all, not all that picture.
At our age, we can't hold it in.
Hey, I'm doing a good job, but I got a bucket. I got a bucket right
Hey,
here.
I'm 10 years old, what do you got? Tube running down the bucket?
it's kind of the same.
I come in and catheterize
I
myself.
was one time, up there for a week, had to work for a week.
They have a lease
Oh,
with the church.
tell me about it. After my surgery,
Well, let's say,
I
on your
had for 2
I
weeks.
got a problem, I gotta see the doctor.
Whoever.
My PSA, I hope it's gone down, I haven't checked it lately. It was 15. Last time I had to check.
What was?
The PSA.
Yeah,
15.
yeah.
I hope it's gone down, give me medicine.
Right. But yeah, and the, we were trying to do, and I understand the point. $800,000.
This sounds close enough.
Because I'm speaking on behalf of the board and I
We
do
visited
want to do
for a
that.
few weeks,
For 30 years.
it's a good Christmas.
I
Well,
understand.
but, you know, I wanted to hear your comment about his question about the,
It starts out and bonded with
And I don't know where it really stands. My position on it is
scale where it goes
documented.
bonded,
I may be there tomorrow, or may be late,
so
so
it's all in my scale.
yeah, I got it.
Well, you may have to come out on your
Yeah, you'll have to
That's
drive.
fine.
That's how we tried to do it.
I've got,
Does that make
cardiac
sense?
rehab at 8:30.
The developer.
That's still beyond one.
Yeah.
Attorneys.
Because bond, you have a contract with the company that basically you're renting the money.
I mean, if we're out doing something, we're going to go
And
out
that's where
outside.
it's kind of working. So as time goes on, since they know they're gonna have, the lump of cash gets bigger.
I don't know, I think we show up there and then we're gonna go someplace.
Gets smaller. That's how we were trying to do it. Yeah, but like I said, and I'm fine with that. that, because
You're not gonna rope us in. And we're looking.
I'm not sure
to
it's
find a
fair to
statute
when
that says
they
the
say,
county-
nope, you gotta have
They're-
$8,000
the other side's
for
saying,
every tower
Taylor County,
sitting
you
in
need to
cash in this
decide.
account for 30
And
years.
that's what every other county does.
I know, that's a bit unreasonable
Oh, I
in my
know.
mind.
So that's.
I'm not far.
Jealous of the sale.
Yeah, no, no.
Are we good?
Yeah.
We'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you all. I think that was very productive, and we'll continue that. I think what we need to do, and we'll work on that collectively, we'll talk about it the next meeting, but we need to get a permanent committee set up, get it assigned. I think it's as important as finance, because it does directly affect all of our folks, one way or the other. Either financially, yes, John?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
Just a thought, and I don't know why we never thought about it before, but we've had some issues come up with the solar farms and similar issues. Could that, I mean,
It could be a dual.
couldn't the same committee kind of look at both, because they're very similar issues in a lot of ways?
Do we have solar farm in every county?
Renewable Energy Committee.
Well, and see, we could deal with commissioning or approving, because the new ordinance, as long as we keep it to board members and then ask other people to be, maybe this should be separate, because remember, we got rid of the committee in the ordinance. But we amended out committee and put in the board was gonna hear, because it's that important, because there's only 7 of us. So we amended that to just make the committee, instead of a committee, to have the board be the committee that decides on citing and whether we approve the application. We all need to be involved, we need to be totally informed, we need to know options, we all need to know that collectively. Because I can't relate to you effectively like somebody else can't. Or Andy can't relate effectively to you us other 6. I mean, we need to hear it from the horse's mouth in order to make better decisions. So that's something we need to think about. There needs to be a committee. It certainly could be for energy production committee, and that would cover solar and or wind power and anything else that came up, okay? Does that sound okay?
I think that sounds.
All right. All right, highway resolutions. We heard about resolution for improvement for BLR 09110. First, for appropriating funds for the following various routes for the HSIP guardrail. And then the same next resolution has to do with BLR 0911 for appropriating funds for the Lower T Road shoulders. And then again for BLR 09110 for appropriating funds for Camp Bridge. So, does anybody need a review of what we talked about? So we'll have to take them separately and approve them separately. So the first one is for guardrail. Is there a motion to approve that? Dan moves, Andy seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Bruner,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
Okay, the next resolution covers the Lower T Road, the Lower Terre Haute Road shoulders. Motion to approve the resolution. Phil moves, Andy seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Ludington.
Yes.
The first 2 passed, thank you. The last resolution for BLR 09110 is for Camp Bridge. Motion to approve. Andy?
So moved.
Dan, you want a second?
No,
Thank you, sir.
there are,
Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Ludington.
They're voting before you call their name.
Well, for the record, I called it.
Just. Okay, the next item is the resolution to approve the budget and levy for FY beginning December 1st of 20 and ending November 30th of 21. Everything's, Augie, I think you have everything together. There was one small glitch that we had to change for, what's the guy that handles our tax sales?
Joseph Meyer.
Joseph Meyer. We had a negative item on 5,000, and so it actually creates an extra 10 grand in the budget surplus. So I assume that was more, it was more of a housekeeping than it was a change. We just caught an error, thanks to Don. So what we're doing now, we're laying over the budget and the levy for inspection by whoever would like to come into Augie's office to inspect it. We have to lay it over for at least 15 days. And so what we'd be doing is approving the levy and the budget to lay over, and then on the 25th, the day before Thanksgiving, we'll actually approve that ordinance, those ordinances, and they will become law then. So, do I have a motion to approve the resolution for budget and levy being laid over for inspection for the next, till the 25th? Andy moves. John seconds. Mr. Clerk.
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
It is passed. Now we have a resolution to participate at the state's attorney's recommendation of the appellate prosecutor program, which costs $8 grand, and it covers December 1st of this year through the 30th of next year. Basically what that does, it's like a joining organization that if you have things that your state's attorney isn't well versed on, for $8 grand, we're covered for the costs of an attorney rather than him approving and going out and buying an attorney. So, any motion here to approve that resolution? Andy moved, Dan seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Okay, resolution authorizing treasurer to transfer an amount not to exceed $36,000 from the general fund to the courthouse improvement fund. That would be our contribution to the courthouse improvement fund. We do it by resolution, so it's crystal clear what we've done.
That's for the tar on
The
top.
bell tower, yes. Motion? Dan? Phil? Seconded by Phil. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Does carry. Next, we're authorizing the treasurer to transfer an amount not to exceed $50,000 from the county farm fund to the general fund. We do that annually. It covers some of the expenses in the general fund. The farm fund includes the T-hanger rents and farm rents. Okay? Motion? Andy? John? Seconds? When you're ready.
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Okay, next is a resolution authorizing treasurer to transfer $12,000 from the animal control rabies fund to the general fund. When those happen, Andrea,
She had a question, not this year, but remember we.
yeah, and
resolved that?
I already talked to her about this.
Okay, good.
Okay. Anyway, when we do rabies shots and they register their animals and all that, this goes back in to offset the expenses.
Okay,
that
I
we
had a
get.
question a couple years ago about it.
Right, I'll get to that one in a minute.
Okay.
So, a resolution, please. Dan moves. Phil seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Ellis.
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Okay, next is a resolution authorizing treasurer to transfer $6,000 from the dog fund to the general fund. And again, that is what we do on an annual basis. A lot of the expenses come out of the general fund, and so this reimburses it. What's your pleasure? Motion? Dan moves, Phil seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Ludd.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is the one that Dan's talking about, and she has about $5,000 in that fund. And we wanna make sure we don't deplete that fund, the, adoption fund too much. And so we leave a minimal amount, not a minimal, but an adequate amount to cover any expenses and seed the next year. So she said she could, do 2,000 to 2,500, I just made it 2,000, okay? So, yes, Dan moves, and Phil seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Thank you, guys, it does pass. Amend resolution authorizing oath and bond for Evelyn Stanfield, Commissioner, Union Drainage District Number 1, by the users of towns of Kansas, Ashmore, and County of Edgar and Coles County in the state of Illinois. I assume this is just housekeeping?
It is. They, the Stanfields are the primary landowners in this ditch, and they had inserted, this is for her,
Right.
but his name was in it with hers in the last one.
Okay.
I take these in and I queue them up for approval and, just clean up. Belongs to her, not him.
Okay. All right, motion to approve? Do you have a question first, Steve?
No.
Okay. Andy moves, John seconds. Mr. Clerk?
Patrick?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Farnum?
Yes.
Chittick?
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Next, we want to appoint with your approval Lisa Ellis, Andy Patrick, Kevin Julian, Michael Marvin, and Derek Lorenzen as chairman to the Special Service Area Number 2 Ambulance Committee, effective immediately. Any questions? Okay. Phil moves. Got a second? John seconds. Further discussion? Would you call the roll?
Sure. Patrick?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Farnum?
Yes.
Chittick?
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Thank you. With your approval, I have all of your email addresses. Do you mind if I make those available to Derek so he wants to get started on it? I just want to make sure I have your permission. Okay? Let's see. Next item is to reappoint Troy Eads, Dave McCrocklin. See, I could say aluminum. I didn't used to be able to say aluminum. But Dave, I have a problem with. He thinks it's funny. I hope that I'm not being disrespectful. Brian Gates to the 911 board to 3-year terms expiring on November 30th, 2023. We talked to him. I talked to Nan to make sure that they were all willing to serve. They're going through a critical time, and although there have been people that have expressed interest in going on that board, continuity seemed to be important right now, and they have, all 3 of them have donated a lot of their time and effort into doing what they're doing right now as far as projects and planning for the future. Would you agree with that, Carl?
Yes.
Okay. So, motion to approve the appointments? Carl? Okay. Anybody, okay, Phil, Andy, seconds?
Hold it. You got Phil, then Andy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sounds like a comedy act to me.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, next, I'll turn this over to John, but the Link Art Gallery would like a kind of a formal approval for display of art, and that has to do with insurance and the proper.
They just want, as we talked before, they're gonna display some paintings on loan in the basement in the entryway. And they just really wanted this so they have a paper trail for their insurance company and say, hey, there's art down there and everybody knows about it, is really all the resolution is.
You were making that motion to
I'll
approve
make the
that?
motion.
I'll say.
Okay, Phil seconds. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk?
Patrick,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington.
Yes.
Okay, next we got department head report. I'm gonna consider you a department head, and, do you have anything to report, Adam?
Nothing new for Monday, unless you guys have questions or comments.
Okay. I assume that you and Josh are pretty well done with what you've got to do this morning?
We are.
Okay, thank you both. I wanted to recognize Josh's help in some of the CARES stuff and the work he's done to sort through stuff, and also Pam at the treasurer's office and Janet at the health department. We couldn't do it without them, and it is a pain, but we appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Augie, you must be all rested up and ready to go today?
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
Looks bright-eyed, yeah.
Let's hurry up, I got a full day yet ahead of me.
I'm trying.
I'll just keep my comments brief, because the next time we meet, we will have canvassed the votes and put the election to bed. So from this point, well, we had a good election. Everything went well. Logistics in the basement for the return items last night went exceptionally well. And so I was very pleased with all that, and I want to thank everybody that helped. Now we have 14 days to allow for vote-by-mail ballots to come in addition to provisional ballots. So.
That would be like, oh, okay, the mail-in, of course, covers our boys and women overseas that are in the armed forces.
Everybody and anybody that.
I know, but I mean.
Yeah, but it would include them, yes.
Because that's really important.
As long as it was postmarked by November 3rd. And provisional people would be any kind of an issue in a polling place on election day that might cause the judge to maybe question, hey, why are you voting? Either you've already voted, or you've had a name change, or an address change, or some issue that does not go through the tabulator right then, but it comes up to the clerk's office, and it's the responsibility of the voter to provide proof of why they believe their ballot should be counted. So.
Very good.
Yeah, so we have those two things, and then after the 14th day, then we have 7 more days to officially canvass the votes and proclaim it all good. And at this point, I see no issues. I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at the returns last night, 66%, which is pretty decent turnout. So we were busy. Questions for me?
Okay. Dan, did you want to finish your story now
Yeah, you cut me off.
Well, that could happen again, depending on.
Buddy and Betsy are doing well. Buddy's now an it.
These are his cats.
Betsy slept with me last night, so these are the 2 cats I adopted.
Thank you, Adam, I understand. Well, take me with you.
Buddy is an odd color, he's got a black tail, all white, and a black strip in the middle of his forehead.
Very good.
I adopted them both because they bonded at the animal shelter, so they bonded, so I couldn't separate them out, so I took both of them off.
Anything else? Okay. Andy?
Well, it's warm. Has the heat been working better, Augie?
They got it fixed yesterday.
I ran into Jordan with Sycamore, and he said that they were.
This would be the new system they got fixed, because they did have the boiler going.
They had the boiler going, and that works.
Yeah.
And so he worked on it again yesterday.
Yeah.
And said, I'm gonna run the air conditioner for a while. And my goodness, the air was on, yesterday afternoon, the gals were sitting there with their coats on, it was so cold.
Okay.
He never told us we could turn it off.
Okay.
He just said, we're gonna run it for a while, then we'll run heat. So I called Ray, and I said, what's the deal? He said, well, that should have been shut off hours ago. So we turned the heat on, and it works.
Okay.
Why
So,
don't you ship them the power bill for October?
And this is more
Well, he-
efficient energy wise.
Well, we're in the process of getting it fixed at this point, but he also told me, he goes, I think he's not even gonna have it set back. He goes, that system actually operates more efficiently if it's on all the time. It will work less when it needs it, and more, less when it doesn't need it, more when it needs, calls for heat. He goes, those setbacks, he goes, with that system are not, don't make it keep going. So he's set it to where it's not gonna set back like, well, part of the major problem is that it was low on gas in a couple of the units, and that's what made it not heat like it's supposed to. But he said he's got it set to where it's not gonna set back at night. He goes, it's more efficient to run all the time.
Great.
And he also took the tolerances that kicked it on and off were set at about 3 degrees. And he set it to the minimum that it would take, which was like 1.3 or 1.8 degrees. I forget, 1 point something. So now there's a very small amount of difference that will kick it on and off. So
I noticed that this morning.
Okay.
Andy, so, yep.
Okay? Do you happen to have I got a tickle in the back of my throat, sorry. Sorry. Okay, Phil?
No.
Carl?
No.
John?
Nope.
Lisa?
No?
Did you have a nice time?
Lovely. Hard to come back.
Well, on finance,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you heard, Carl, but we're getting $490,000 on the 16th. And I checked the safety fund, but it hadn't rolled over for our payment in November yet. Also, Don distributed to all school districts and other governmental units, including our funds, and we got another $360,000 in our funds. The state has been very good on its payments to us over the last few months, which is surprising because I see a lot of notes on UCCI and some of the other organizations where people are complaining about sales tax coming in, and it comes in like clockwork. So I don't know, I guess we're just lucky. So he did not have a sheet that shows where our fund balances are, because quite frankly, he's been getting ready for the tax sales and so forth. As soon as I get it, I'll try to get it out to you so you can see, but our cash flow is okay. All right? Yes, sir, Dan.
Main Street, someone complained about the sales tax, but I noticed my bill for when I eat is like 2 cents more than what it was.
Well,
You
yeah,
wanna
because
buy
it's,
more- You wanna buy more, so you spend more, you type one.
He's got it.
you can save,
But I just made a comment. Someone bitched about it, but it didn't change the bill that much.
It's the same people would be pissed if they weren't hung with a new rope.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you know that the health department, I've talked to them with the new orders from the governor. When was that, last Thursday or Friday? I had occasion to talk to the gal that's on TV all the time with the governor, the head of the Illinois Department of Public Health, along with the head of the state police. And basically, they told us, some of the folks from this region, Region 6, that they were looking to educate our businesses. They weren't looking to write up any citations. They weren't looking to cause any issues. But if they have to re-educate, they will. And that goes for our health our health department is handling this way. They called around that afternoon and set out some, what you call it, bullet alerts, and told everybody that if they were going to stay open, they understood, and that this is what they wanted them to tighten things up, make sure they were using common sense, and operating their business to protect their customers and their staffs. So that, at this point, is how things are being handled. I think as a board, we want to encourage everybody to be responsible. I mean, I understand some people think it's violating their personal rights, but if we could just all use common sense, it makes sense. So, does anybody disagree with that? I don't want to speak for you if I'm exaggerating at all or not saying something right, but that's all we'd like people to do is take care of their fellow man and take care of their families and treat everybody with respect. So, and anyway, that's where we're at. We need a closed session on negotiations and personnel. And it should be brief, but it's necessary. So is there a motion to go into closed session? Andy moves. And Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Closed, or no, nay? Or, you know what I mean. Nay. So we're going into closed session. I did that for Lisa.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? I thought I already did. All those
I
in favor
couldn't
signify
understand.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. There, I got it.
Yep, we're ready.
We're out of a closed session. No action was taken that we have to act upon. Just want to remind the board that we have a special meeting tomorrow that meets at 9 a.m. at the highway office, and we'll be going over for a tour with Ameren tomorrow morning. We have to be down in Kansas about 9:30.
Do you know how long that'll take?
It can take as long as, I mean, if you drive separately,
Okay.
you know, I think they talked about maybe, let's say 9:30, 10:30, they mentioned about 11:30, 11:30. Okay,
So meet at the highway office at 9.
right,
I'll meet you at the station.
that's fine.
I'll be in Charleston, specialist.
And Dan, if you're gonna be late, you probably have to go out to the subset.
Yeah, each side of you, let me know.
Okay, all right.
Where we go.
John, are you planning on being there?
No, I don't think so. I got a lot on my plate.
Okay, I think Derek Lorenzen is coming.
Everybody's gonna be there. I take it we're not just gonna go to the substation.
No, they're gonna take us out.
Out to the site, yeah.
No, that's not gonna happen there.
No,
Okay.
but the only reason we're meeting at,
I better not wear these then.
well, you could.
Tennis shoes. Tennis
The
shoes.
dust is a little thick on this.
Since it's a special meeting, we have to take a roll, we have to offer public comment, and the substation probably wouldn't be the right place to do that.
You're gonna count me in, right?
Yeah,
Even though I'm not here.
yeah,
Don't forget that.
we get a box of lunch that way. All right,
Lunch, too?
that's what they said.
That porta potties out there.
All right, and do remember, to dress for it, because we're not going up in a helicopter though, sorry.
You won't let me hang
I will be,
I'm not going.
but, you know,
You brought a helicopter?
Those copters got a weight limit,
That, you getting all those great
they
big.
take an estimate.
all right, I think folks need to take off. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Well, you get a lot of motions there.
Phil moves, John seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay. Don't forget, it's really important.